Thanks so much to Ellen Germain, the State Department's Special Envoy for Holocaust Issues, for joining us today here on International Holocaust Remembrance Day. An incredibly busy and incredibly meaningful time of year for you. And what are the initiatives, the programs the State Department and you are working on this year?
First, thank you so much, Mike, for giving me the chance to talk with you today. As you said, International Holocaust Remembrance Day is kind of the day for me and for my office. We've got a lot of initiatives that we've been working towards today and a lot of events in the week or so leading up to International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Um, Over the past year, we've been working, as we always do, on our two major issues, which are restitution and compensation for our survivors, restitution and compensation for property that was seized by the Nazis from Jews during the Holocaust, and also on supporting accurate Holocaust commemoration and education, and that includes things like countering Holocaust distortion and denial, which, of course, is a pernicious form of anti Semitism and is sadly and frighteningly on the rise worldwide.
You know, the number of Holocaust survivors just dwindles and dwindles every year, which makes every year even more impactful. What stories have you encountered within the last year? What living memories can you to try to keep alive in your role?
The number of survivors is inevitably diminishing. And so these face to face personal interactions are all the more valuable. And this past year has been a really special one because, of course, it was the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. And so I spent much of April and May in Europe, in Germany and Austria, attending the commemorations of various concentration camp liberations, Dachau, Mauthausen, and some other events. And one of the experiences that really, really moved me and that sticks out in my memory is from Mauthausen. I met the so-called Mauthausen babies. There are three survivors who were born in the waning days of the war, just as Mauthausen was, being liberated. They were born essentially on the death trains, as their mothers were being transported from other concentration camps to Mauthausen. And it's incredible how they survived. I mean, one of the babies was 3 pounds when she was born. And I think her mother was something like 70 pounds. So their survival is unbelievable. And the three of them only met each other and knew about each other's existence in 2010. They didn't realize there were others. And every at least 5 years or so since then, they've met and they were all at Mauthausen this year. And to hear their stories and to see them, these really beautiful, smiling, uh, sharp people whose start in life was so horrific, is just I hate to use the cliche, but a testament to human spirit and to the way people are able to survive in the most horrific of circumstances. So these child baby survivors, and their mothers, some of whom only died within the last decade or so. Um, so that really stuck with me. And the other real story that I remember from this past year was I had the privilege of interviewing a survivor named Eugene Bergman, Dr. Eugene Bergman. He is he is a deaf survivor of the Holocaust. He was attacked by a soldier when he was 9 years old in Poland, and that left a blow to the head, left him deaf. He managed to survive throughout the war. He was with the partisans as a child, as a, I think, 12-year-old. And he came to the United States went to college, earned his PhD in English literature, and became an English professor at Gallaudet University, which, again, just an incredible story of resilience, survival, and just such a funny, nice man to talk to is one of the pieces that really sticks with me. I'm Every time I hear a new story from a survivor, I marvel at how each story is different and I could listen to them, all day.
I think most people, even most Jews, don't realize because it's out of their consciousness. We hear about the Holocaust on International Holocaust Remembrance Day, on Yom HaShoah in Israel, and for much of the rest of the year, for most of us, it kind of is out of our consciousness. But this is a year-round campaign. I know for you and the State Department and others working on these issues. These survivors, their lives continue 365 days a year. How is that interaction like when everybody else kind of forgets about the issue?
Is indeed a year-round, year in, year out effort for my office and for all of the organizations that work to support survivors. Um, Big part of what we do, as I said, is we advocate for restitution and compensation, which is really support for survivors and sometimes for their heirs too, if we're talking about property that was stolen. But for example, I work very closely with the Claims Conference and the World Jewish Restitution Organization. And both of those organizations work really hard to, for example, get pensions and healthcare, home care support for survivors. And that's the kind of thing that's necessary year round and even more necessary now because even the youngest survivors are in their early 80s. And, their childhoods were horrendous, and we need to all help them to live in dignity um, in their last years.
I know you can't discuss individual court cases, but there are still some countries that are holding out in terms of claims that the Claims Conference and others are pursuing. This particular administration has not been shy about throwing its weight around and making sure that what it wants to see accomplished is accomplished when it comes to its allies and sometimes with its adversaries. Do you feel that there will be a resolution to some of these outstanding cases sometime in the near future?
Certainly hope so. And I will say this administration, as you said, Mike, has been crystal clear in its condemnation of anti Semitism and in its support also for Holocaust issues, for advocating for survivors and in opposing Holocaust distortion, denial. So I am taking advantage of it in every way I can to try and help the survivors. I will say, I mean, just today, I was talking to one of our ambassadors overseas. And I have to say, I mean, that ambassador was gung ho about pushing forward and trying to get the country where that ambassador is posted to finish up its restitution and compensation issues. So I'm, you know, cautiously optimistic, um, but we are making every effort because there is a small remaining window of time when there are still a significant number of survivors left who will be able to benefit from whether it's restitution or getting pensions to help them in their declining years. And we don't want to let countries run out the clock.
When it comes to making sure that the memory of the Holocaust is kept alive, a big part of that is making sure that the historical record remains intact. And right now, we're facing just a tremendous amount of Holocaust denial and distortion. On one hand, this administration wants to combat that. On the other hand, it's also been what it feels is a champion for free speech, especially in Europe. And sometimes those two things naturally collide to give people the space, even if it's not what you want to hear, to say it. How does the State Department kind of find that middle ground in pushing against Holocaust denial and distortion while still following the administration's line of championing free speech, even if it's not what we want to hear?
So the administration and State Department, as part of that, we've been crystal clear and unambiguous about our condemnation of anti-Semitism and of Holocaust distortion and denial. Um, we've also, as a country, we've also always been very clear that we do not, as this administration has said, we do not support legal restrictions on freedom of speech. Um, Freedom of speech, people should be able to say what they want to say. We can, however, condemn speech that we disagree with as a policy matter, and we can and we do that. And I personally and my bosses, the Secretary of State, the President, have been very clear in condemning anti Semitic speech and anti Semitic actions. Most recently, I think in the tragic and horrific attack at Bondi Beach in Australia. So, we're very clear that anti Semitic speech, Holocaust distortion and denial, are things to be condemned. And yeah.
Ellen Germain, let's not wait until Yom HaShoah. Let's make this more than a twice a year conversation and catch up soon on these critical issues. Ellen Germain, State Department Special Envoy for Holocaust Issues, thanks so much for taking the time to join us.